Hello and a very warm welcome to everyone. This is Shivansh Gupta, and joining today for a chat is a very special personality. He is a famous YouTuber, the voice of table tennis, and a trick shot master. And that's not it. He is a globetrotter who has a very special fan base for just his table tennis outfits. Please join me in welcoming renowned table tennis commentator Adam Bobrow. Adam, welcome.
Hey, thanks for helping me. Introducing me. Thanks for having me. Thanks for everything.
Thank you so much for taking out the time and and how is New York treating you? I believe you just got here a while back.
Yeah, so far so good. I've got a really comfy bed to sleep on. I've got air conditioning. I've got a shower, tons of Pokemon around, room for my bags, and that's all I need. So I'm good.
Wonderful. Please tell us, our viewers, how and when did you realize that table tennis commentary is something that you want to get into, and when did it happen?
I'm still not sure if I really want to get into table tennis commentary. I'm just in sort of a flirting, trying it out state. No, that's a good question. I guess the short of it is I was volunteering for a table tennis organization called NCTTA, a wonderful nonprofit organization that promotes table tennis in an excellent way for college students throughout the United States. And yeah, I was volunteering for them for many years. And normally that would mean, like cleaning up, picking up chairs or whatever, doing some organizing of the tournament, helping out in some way. And they said, hey, you want to do commentating? I'm like, what's that? And they're like play-by-play announcing type thing where you talk about what you see on the screen and all that. And I said, oh, they're like, you talk a lot and you have a background in entertainment and improv. Want to give it a try? And I said, okay. So I did. And it was fun. I was a passenger. There was a guy who was much more experienced than me. So I sort of sat back and let him do the talking and then jumped in when it seemed right. Now I don't let anybody talk. I'm just kidding. I usually don't have a co-commentator, and sometimes I have a co-commentator who's, doing many other sports and maybe a little newer to table tennis. But that's how I got started. And then I tried out for something called the Voice of Table Tennis, a competition that ITTF had in 2011. And I was one of the 5 finalists and not one of the 2 they chose. So I was either 3, 4, or 5. And 3 years later, I really wanted to go to Japan again. I hadn't been in a while. I love Japan, but it's expensive to fly internationally and hotels and all that are expensive. And I thought I need to figure out a way to get to Japan. And then there was a competition again, the Voice of Table Tennis 2014. And the grand prize was an all expenses paid trip to the World Championships in Japan. And I thought I could go to Japan for free and I could watch the World Championships. All I have to do is talk about it. Sure. That sounds great. It'll force me to watch more. I love watching table tennis. So I did that. And it sort of became my career.
So, you've traveled the world, you have rubbed shoulders with top players, not like you said, before the matches, during the tournaments, and also for your YouTube channel as well. So now that you've seen the systems and the structures in place in different countries, where do you think is the biggest difference when you compare India and other Asian giants like Korea, China, Japan? And what can India do more of to get to that level? Because, Sharat Kamal versus Ma Long is a landmark match in its own way, right? Because you don't often see an Indian player making Ma Long sweat the way he did, right? And you could see the frustration, and not a lot of players in world table tennis can do that. So while that was an inspiration, but we still lack that cutting edge. So where do you think is the difference, and what can India do differently, with the structures and the planning in place?
Sure. Just to clarify, China's in a class of its own. There's no comparison yet. Japan is very strong. Korea is also very strong, but China is in a class of its own, and we have to acknowledge that. It's just several steps above, which is impressive that the semifinals, at least in the men's singles, came down to 2 points in the 7th and 3 points in the 7th to determine who the winner would be, and really could have gone either way. But in some senses, it couldn't have, because it already happened and it can't be changed. And maybe that's not a coincidence. There is an incredible amount of pressure on the Chinese players, which I need to, in general, my dad taught me to give the benefit of the doubt, right? Someone's on the road and they drive in a way, they cut you off. Who knows? They could have a pregnant wife giving birth in the hospital or a dying parent. I mean, and you're just like, oh, I was here first. And maybe you're right, maybe they're wrong, but we really don't know what's going on. The Chinese players all have very individual personalities. They all have a sense of humor, some more than others. And yeah, I mean, they're all individual people who've sacrificed a lot to make it their career and to qualify to be part of the greatest national team in the history of the sport. Okay, so that pressure. Here's a short anecdote. When Dmitry Ovcharov, was playing Ma Long in game number 7, so Lu Guoliang, the president of CTTA and a legend of the sport and one of the most sort of influential, popular men in the game, a Grand Slam champion himself, he's done incredible things for the sport. He's watching everything and he's cheering loudly. And people give him his space. The way Ma Long is about playing, he just gets tunnel vision. No one talks to him because he's like this. Lu Guoliang is like that on the matches. I said hi to him and he said hi, but I realized quickly it was like he was in the middle of the match. Dima comes back to 10 or 9-10 down in game 7, and Lu Guoliang, through his mask, stands up and shouts, "He cannot beat you." And he didn't in Chinese, so Dima didn't understand. But he wanted Ma Long to know it is not possible. Not he's not allowed to beat you. You'll be punished if you lose. He said it with this tone of, you need to know that it's just not possible. You're better than him. You've beaten him 18 times out of 18 times, and this will not be the one. He is not capable of beating you. Ma Long wins the next point, throws his hands in the air, turns and shouts to Lu Guoliang, "He cannot beat me." And it's like chills, right? Like
goosebump moments. Yeah, goosebump moment.
So this will all come around to your question. China puts a lot of resources into table tennis. From governmental support, which I don't think is necessary. The NBA in the United States, I mean, the US is very strong in basketball. And American football. And as far as I know, there's not governmental support. I think they're private businesses. Or they're businesses. Anyway, so the government supports it a lot. That's great. They put a lot of effort and resources into it. I know that, the Bajaj Group, Vita Dani and Niraj Bajaj have supported table tennis in a huge way in India. And it's already had a massive effect on the growth of just the level in India. And that's 4 years, only 4 years. China's been doing this for decades. And by this, I don't mean just supporting it. I mean, they've had a system in place with thousands of coaches and probably tens, if not hundreds of thousands of 6-year-olds learning proper technique from a young age in a way that really gives them a solid foundation. So that's not going to happen overnight, but it has to start somewhere. India has started. They've started the journey. There needs to be continuing spread, the grassroots. Kids need to be good at it, and kids need to care about it, and kids need other kids to do activities. When I got started in table tennis, I was the only teenager playing with a bunch of grown men and grumpier old men, and they were way better players than me, and I went there for the challenge. But socially, like, none of my friends were like, "Hey, let's go to the local community center and play with some seniors." They were like doing what their friends were doing. Like, kids gravitate towards social opportunities, and so do I. Anyway, creating schools versus schools from elementary school and getting coaches in schools to teach the proper everything, and then marketing it well and creating superstars, from the Manika Batras and the, Sutirtha Mukherjees and the oh, I don't know, Archana Kamats to the Sharth Kamals and the Satyanyana Shakarans and the Harmeet Desais and the Manav Tuckers, like making them names in India that people go, oh, I love it when Manav makes the game face and goes, because he does. And it's hilarious and it's awesome. And creative player. And like, there's just so much to guide people's attention towards and build superstars. So it'll take time, it'll take effort, it'll take belief. The placebo effect is real. When people believe something, they can make it true, you know, and not everything all the time, but a shockingly high number of things can become possible that might have seemed impossible to everyone else, because the person who was holding the steering wheel, the person who was putting in the effort, believed that it was possible to get there. So yeah, persistence, detail. China sets a very high bar. So I think it's important to remember that even if you haven't accomplished your goals in the timeline that you've hoped to, if you're moving in that direction, it's possible. And just keeping a close eye on what it'll take to continue improving and readjusting your expectations and managing those so that you don't give up.
Right. So, you know, talking about Indian players and foreign personalities in Indian TT, you've been a part of UTT since the beginning in 2017. And so hopefully it's back on next year as well. So now that you've seen young Indian players, senior Indian players share the dressing room with some of the top players in the world. So how has your experience been, one? And two, how do you think that has benefited Indian table tennis? And three, is it enough?
Well, I'll take those backwards and start with three. Of course, it's not enough. If it was, India would be beating China right now. We'd already be there. If your question is it enough to continue? I think also no. But I think it's a great start. Yeah, it's a step in the right direction. I think it's a survival skill to improve. To try, and that's why we're always competing and comparing, even right. to the point of like destruction. Like it can be good for motivating though, right? You might right. not need like, oh, the next door neighbors have the new iPad, I need the new iPad, but there's a reason we do this. There are only so many jobs, and if someone's better than you, they get the job. So anyway, India is doing outstandingly well and is on the right path, and will learn more things and learn to implement new things, and will raise more funds. I mean, when you have people that have incredible resources like the Bajaj group, you know, Neeraj Bajaj and Vita Dani and the family, right. I mean, these people didn't get to where they were by throwing away money or making bad investments or just donating nonstop. And while they're incredibly generous and they do donate, they make wise investments that build futures for people and look like they have a chance to thrive. So if we can develop the sport in a way that when people invest, they see a great return on their investment, then more and more people will invest, and that grows the pie for everyone involved. I'm working to do that. I know a lot of people are. You asked me, how is it seeing the generations of Indians and the future? It's exciting. I'm very attracted to mystery, and I think we all are. I can't tell you how many people right now, like because of everyone wearing masks, I'm like, ooh, wonder what's under that mask. And like, for the most part, I know, but not the details. It's attractive. It's interesting. And similarly, it leaves the imagination tons of room to play. Not knowing for sure what the future holds means there are possibilities. And I have a very active imagination, which makes life incredibly exciting. So when I see Archana Kamit, when I see Srija Kula, when I see Manav Tucker, you know, there are so many players, Rohit Panja, like these players have so much ahead of them and so much potential, and we really don't know. It just reminds me of watching Mima Ito and Myuhi Rano go like this back and forth. In 2017, Myuhi Rano like Mima Ito got lost in the shadows because Miu Hirano beat 3 out of 4 Chinese like dominators. The 3 of the top 4 women in the world she beat, I believe, to become the Asian champion of 2017, the youngest ever. She was the future. And Mima Ito could have said, it's too much. There's no way I can catch up. When's the last time you heard, don't get me wrong, Miu Hirano's incredible. She's got a bright future, but Mima Ito has been in the spotlight. She's the only player that China pays attention to right now.
Right.
And that's credit to her. Now, I hope that Miu Hirano's doing the same thing to come back and say, Mima Ito's an amazing friend, and I have to get better than her so that I can push her to get better than me, like Waldner and Pearson did. It's been really exciting for me to see India climb. And the question in the middle that I might have missed was commentating it. What was the experience like?
Yeah, I mean, what was your experience? So how has it been so far at UTT as a broadcaster, as a commentator?
Well, it's just
and
being in India is always fun. There's so much passion. There's so much heart. There's so much culture. There's artwork. There's history. India has a very, very rich, beautiful culture and history, and it's everywhere to see. So whether that means going to like Osho's garden or, the Golden Sikh temples in Agra or where, Amritsar, Agra, Taj Mahal. So yeah, but there's just so much to see and do. And while maybe for foreigners, we have to make sure that we know what food is washed where, and we have to just make sure that we settle in well. It's a thrill every time. And the stadium atmosphere that's been created at UTT is unlike any other. So I miss UTT when I'm gone. I can't wait to come back. And I'm excited for it to thrive. And I hope that, I'm going to do everything I can to help it grow so long as I'm involved in it. And I hope to be for the remainder of its, for as long as I'm alive, basically. As long as I'm able to contribute, I hope to be working with UTT. It's been an incredible experience that I always look forward to.
So the Table Tennis Federation of India, TTFI, and World Table Tennis, how can they have an arrangement in order to promote the viewership of the sport in India instead of just having the big ticket players getting drawing the main viewership? Yeah.
Well, it takes time. This is true of almost anything from what I've seen, in terms of entertainment. Sports are entertainment, which doesn't mean the players don't deserve credit for being incredible world-class athletes or that they don't work incredibly hard to be the best they possibly can. It doesn't diminish those efforts nor their skills nor accomplishments. But what it means is that you could be number 80 in the world and be the most popular player, the most influential player, or the highest paid player in the world. Because it's entertainment, right? There are a handful of players that are outside of the top 10 and have been for most of their careers that are still household names that are super popular. That said, much like in a movie, if you, let's say Amir Khan is in a movie for 5 minutes and the lead actor is some new actor who doesn't have a lot on his resume, and Amir Khan is in it for 5 minutes, he might get paid more than the lead actor, and he might drive more box office than the lead actor. But that lead actor needs to take advantage of this role and make it the best possible part. And even an actor who gets a small part, if they're not known, there are no small parts. There are no small roles. There are only small actors. You make the most of what you have, and then you grow it. And the players that are Srija Kula, for example, if you were at UTT and you watched avidly, or you might have a good sense of who she is. And if you're a table tennis fan and you're in India, you probably know who she is. Recently, even though she lost her match to Monica, she played an incredible match. And that's the type of performance that puts her on the map, that makes people realize, damn, this girl's capable. She can play. Right. She's dangerous, and she beat some big names to get there. So these performances are important. And the fact, I think, ITTF recognizes where fertile soil is. That's their job.
Right.
And there's no question. I mean, it's tricky. Like if you're Luxembourg, for example, you might be a beautiful nation with delicious food and lovely people, but if you have 500,000 as your population, your market isn't going to be quite as high priority as India with, 1.3 something billion or whatever it is, and growing all the time. So ITTF knows they're very intelligent, and it's filled with intelligent, hardworking people that are strategic and wise. And WTT, which you referred to, just to be clear, is a smaller focused group with a bunch of additional people that are focused on this. So while there is some overlap, some core people from ITTF that are a big part of WTT, there's a whole other team that I've yet to meet. Some of them I have, focusing on this. So I'm sure that India gets high priority as a very fertile soil, as a current market and future market. They know that if they can stimulate the region, more and more people will watch. So my opinion is India has to fall in love with their players. You can't force someone to do anything, but you can give them a lot of good reasons to show up. So WTT and TTFI, I'm sure they're discussing, because it's in everyone's best interest. It's a win-win situation.
Right. Who, according to you, is the next breakout star? Who do you Indian table tennis?
It's such a fun, and I always feel bad for my friends, because there are a lot of Indian players that I'm friends with that are great players on the women's and side. And I don't mean to belittle any of them. I haven't mentioned Madhurika Patkar's name yet. And there are a lot of good players in India.
Of course.
And there are some that it might be disqualified, like Satyen Yanashekaran, because he's already broken out. He's already a star. Sharad Kamal's been the poster boy of Indian table tennis for a while now. So these are the opposite of future breakout stars. Wow.
Sorry for putting you on the spot, but I just wanted to ask.
No, sure, it's fine. I mean, for me, the three that you mentioned, you've got Shrija Kula, I'd say Archana Kamath.
Before I slip in my next question, I have a confession to make. So a lot of my friends and family, despite me being a table tennis fanatic and a table tennis journalist, don't usually watch the sport, right? And then they're not very much into it. But during the Olympics, I got them to watch a few games, and every time they tune into a match, especially the Sharat Kamal Mahalong match, which you were doing the commentary for, they were very, very, they were very impressed by that one voice they heard in a few matches. And obviously that voice is yours. So, how was your experience at the Olympics? And do you think that's your biggest milestone yet of your commentating career?
Yeah, I mean, milestone wise, I guess that has the greatest prestige for sure. Yeah, that was amazing. The Paralympics were amazing and incredibly inspiring. And I know for India, even more exciting than the Olympics in terms of results, because of Bhavina Patel, who, I mean, what an amazing breakthrough performance. Yeah, the Olympics was the biggest milestone. The Paralympics was the most memorable, I'd say, powerful experience I've had as a commentator yet. And I hope to be involved more and more with para table tennis and to do the Paralympics again and the Olympics. I think the biggest thrill about the Olympics for me was knowing how many people were watching who normally don't. It's sort of like if you're waiting for people to check out something that you've been saying, you got to check this out. It's amazing. You're going to love it. Just give it a try. Or you don't have to stay the whole time. Just try it and see if you like it. That type of thing. I'm waiting for the world. I'm ready. And whenever it happens, I'll be there. And I'll be with arms wide open. I'll be ready to welcome people. And if they don't love it, that's fine. Opinions are opinions, and people are going to have different preferences. But I do think a lot of people will stay and will love it and didn't realize how amazing it is. So yeah, having people around the world who don't normally watch the sport tuning in and writing on social media and saying how much fun they're having and how interesting it is. And how engaging the experience is and how amazing the players are. Yeah.
So Adam, it was a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much for giving our viewers an insight on such a variety of topics. And thank you for taking the time to speak to the Hindustan Times.
Shivansh, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure to be here, and I really appreciate you taking the time to promote table tennis.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you.